This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for Just for the Spell of It with Gary Moss. And Gary, we've been off for a couple of weeks. You did a surprise visit to an ER and ended up in the hospital. Did you learn any good words?
Just a podcast? Did I learn any words? Oh. I learned hospital bed.
That's a word, huh?
Yeah. I learned, I learned a lot of words.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you heard a lot while you were in the hospital, but we're glad that you're home and feeling better. And we're going to talk about words again today, aren't we?
Yes, we are. What I wanted to focus on today, and maybe to clarify a little, as you and a lot of our visitors know, we have a link on the page on the website for words of the day. And the words of the day are primarily lesser known words. Now, some of the people out there might be very bright and have huge vocabularies where the word of the day is something they'll say, oh, I know that word. I've known it for a long time. Well, depending upon the area of expertise you have in terms of your profession or something you study in school, a lot of these words might be normal to you. But I would bet that 90% of the people out there see many of these words, and they'll even ask themselves, is that a real word? And
exactly.
So those are the kinds of things that you'll find on the word of the day list. Let me just mention a few here that you may have seen. The word Tsarevna, Czarevna. That is the daughter of a Tsar. A Tsar being someone who led the country in Russia primarily. There might be other countries that have Tsars, but that's the one that I'm thinking of. And then a word like CRWTH. It's a Gaelic word.
Okay.
The W is pronounced like a U, so it would be pronounced Cruth. And you can go to your Scrabble dictionary if you have the Red Dictionary, 6th edition, Official Scrabble Players Dictionary, 6th edition, and it has the definitions for almost all of these words. The Scrabble Dictionary is the Bible, along with the OWL official word list put out by the Scrabble Association. Those two lists are the official word list. Now, there are some limitations within these different books. The OWL is completely correct, and it has words up to 14 letters long. The one that you find in the bookstores, the OSPD 6th edition, has words only up to 8 letters long, plus some of them are 8 letters long, plus their endings, which might make them into 9 or 10 letter words. And so if you're using the OSPD 6th edition, you don't have all the words there. You've got about 90% of the words there. But as Scrabble players, we rarely, if ever, play anything longer than 8 or 9 letters. And many of those longer words, we play them as extensions. Like you might have the word chief on the board, and you might add DOM, chiefdom, to make it a longer word. The word chief will be in the OSPD6, and chiefdom is only 8 letters, so it should be in there as well. But if you were to add an extension to a longer word, it may not be there. One of the really long words that has been played in a legal Scrabble game, the first player on the top line played the word earth, and there were 5 spaces after the word earth that would take you all the way to the triple word score. And the other player added QUAKE, earthquake.
Oh, okay, wow.
So now that's a 10-letter word. And let's say your opponent challenged earthquake for whatever reason, though I don't think anybody really would. Earthquake will appear in the OWL, the official word list, but it may not be in the OSPD6 because it's 10 letters long.
Oh, okay.
Now, after earthquake was already played and it's 10 letters long, in front of earth, there were still 5 empty spaces to the other triple word score on the extreme left-hand side of the board. And the original player who played earth, now there's earthquake.
Right.
He played MICRO.
Micro earthquake. Wow.
Micro earthquake.
Ha.
And micro earthquake is on the OWL, OWL dictionary.
Interesting.
But it would not be found in the OSPD 6th edition. So depending what word source you're using, the word may or may not be found. And that holds true for the programs that are available for both our handheld devices, for our telephones, and for our computers. There are some programs like Zyzzyva, Zyzzyva. Zyzzyva is a program that works on your computer. There's a version for your phone. It's available from the Scrabble Association if you're a member of that association, and it has the complete dictionary. So you can use it for adjudicating words during an official game.
Wow.
Now, I know that most of you out there aren't playing at the level where you're going to think of to play micro earthquake. Most of the words on my word of the day list happen to be shorter words, but they're words that I bet are not part of your vocabulary, probably as much as 95% of the words are not in your normal vocabulary. So here's the conflict. On one hand, you want to have a lot of fun by playing the words that you know. So you're going to play mostly with the vocabulary that you have accumulated to this point over time.
Sure.
And that's great. And that's a lot of fun to do. But when you get around to the point where you want to become a challenging opponent and you want to trip up your opponent and your object is to win the game, then you want to look up and know some of these other words. Now, if you read my word of the day every day, and all you do is read it, and then tomorrow you come and you look at the new word of the day, yes, you're going to see some of these unusual words, but 90% of the time, it's not going to filter into your memory. It's not going to become part of your word arsenal. Now, here's the important part of the word of the day. I'm giving you something every day that's providing you with an opportunity to fool your opponent. Now, some of these words are really hard to even pronounce, let alone learn. Armagnac. I'm going to guess on how to spell it. Armagnac. Now, that happens to be 8 letters long. And to get that combination, they're not the most common letters, and it's got 3 A's in it. But if I had remembered that and someone played arm on the board,
Mm-hmm.
I could add AGNAC to the end. And first of all, their jaw would drop.
Right.
Second of all, they would have to think about it. So they would call hold, HOLD, which kind of puts the whole game on hold, but the clocks are still going. So it's eating up their time while they're considering whether they're going to challenge me or not. If I put it in a place where I wasn't getting any huge number of points for the play, let's say I was going to get a total of 15 or 18 points for that extension, they're not going to take a challenge me and take the risk of losing the challenge for 18 points. If I put it in a place where, let's say, it hit the triple word score and I got 40 points or 45 points for it, they might then be willing to challenge that and take the chance. Now, in this case, we know they're going to lose that challenge. But if your opponent is going to get a large number of points and you definitely do not know the word,
Mm-hmm.
my advice and what I usually do is I'll challenge the word. Now, I play a lot of experts who know many, many more words than I do. Let's say the average person on the street knows 5% of the words in the dictionary. That's about 8,500 words. With all the studying that I've done, I might know 20%, 25%. So even at 25%, I might know 40,000 words, but there are 170,000 words in the dictionary. So even if I know 40,000, I don't know 130,000.
Right, right.
Some of these top experts claim to know 100%. And I don't think they do, but still, if they know 70 or 80%, a lot of times when they play one of these weird words on the board, it's going to be acceptable.
Sure.
Okay? So the strategy comes in. What do you challenge? What don't you challenge? But when you're throwing a lot of these unusual words, and most of you out there are not playing the expert field, but you're going to set your opponents into a frenzy because they have no idea what you're playing. And if you can get down one of or two of these unusual words, then they're not going to challenge anything at all that you play, or at least it's going to put them on notice that you know a whole lot more than they know.
Sure.
Okay? Some of these unusual words are words that have a lot of vowels in them. And one of the things that happens to all of us, we've all had that EIEIO rack
Right.
where we look at the rack and there's all these vowels. Well, there's only one word I can think of that has all vowels, and that's the short word EAU, which means water. And EAU is 3 vowels. But learning some of these other words that have multiple vowels. One of the new words, when I say new, I'm always thinking back to the newest version of the OWL, the newest 6th edition, as opposed to the 5th edition. One of the new words that are in the newest edition is AIYEE. 4 vowels and a Y. AIYEE. And again, I don't memorize what these things mean, so I refer you to the OSPD 6th edition to see what it means, but I know it's good. And so if I'm plagued with vowels and I have a Y and I have these other letters, I'll play it because my opponent probably doesn't know it. And one of the things I don't know is I just suggested that you might play that. I don't know if it takes an S at the end.
Okay.
I don't know if you can look that up, Karen.
Well,
AIYEE.
I'm looking it up right now, and it says the detailed meaning, your first name of AIYEE, however you pronounce it, gives you a great desire to help people and draws you towards positions of philanthropic services.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So does it show if it takes an S or not?
Yeah, it doesn't show that.
And what part of speech is it?
I have to go back a page. Wait a second, because I was just like thrown off on that one. This information isn't telling me that.
Okay. That's acceptable.
Oh, yeah. And I guess it can also be spelled AIEE.
Really? That's not a good Scrabble word.
Yeah.
I don't know what source you're using.
Well, I just Googled it. That's all. So yeah.
Okay. I am looking at my dictionary and AIYEE. It's an interjection, and it does not show it taking an S here. So I would not suggest, but it's a good offensive play if I were to play it, and I know it doesn't take an S. That's another thing. When you know whether the word, how it ends, when you know what part of speech it is, which if it's a verb, it usually takes an S or ing or ed. Now, you always want to check back to one of your official lists because there are rules about what verbs do, what nouns do, how you can end them, and there are always exceptions. And when we were in school, when we were first learning how to spell, we learned about all of these exceptions.
Right.
We learned about silent letters. We learned about so many things. And so if I were to see this word and make the decision that I was going to use it, before I used it, I would want to look up on my own time before the game started, how can I end it? What cannot go after it? And so I have that information. And all that information comes in very handy when playing it against your opponent.
Absolutely. In fact, I just found the other day playing Scrabble online with somebody that um, my brain was getting to the point of being able to play something that I knew that would not take an S, so I could, put it up against um, the three letter. I'm sorry, where it would be a triple word score. Okay. And
Okay.
especially if it was at the end, towards the end of the game, and I'm trying to use up my letters. And um, so that's something that I've been practicing a lot on, because it seems like towards the end of the game, if the triple word score is empty, it's always the place where I'm putting my last letters, and I don't want somebody to add an S and, you know, win because of that.
Very good. That's a great defensive point that a lot of the newer players don't think that way. And many times you'll have the advantage of taking advantage of their plays because they didn't think that way.
Right, exactly.
And so let's say they got 20 or 25 points on a play, and they leave a hook at the end for an S. And especially if it hits a triple word score, you're going to use all that hard work they did to come up with that word. And
Right.
with one little S, you're going to get 50 points and steal the game possibly.
Yep, exactly.
One of the things that I just thought of as we were talking here, I've been playing frequently online the game Words with Friends. And I do not really want to learn the Words with Friends dictionary.
Right.
Because it is immensely different than the Scrabble dictionary. And so, we only have so many things we can learn. And, I shared this, so I'm not going to tell the whole story, but I actually won a tournament because my opponent, who was a very gifted Scrabble player, was planning on going to play in the world tournament, which uses a different word list. And she went out playing the word OI, and this was 2 versions back of our dictionary. OI was not yet in it, but it was part of the world dictionary.
Okay.
And I was in a tournament using at that time the OSPD 4th edition. It was not, OI was not in that. And so I challenged her word. She looked stunned because she knew OI is a word.
Right.
But she didn't realize that it wasn't in our version. And I ended up winning the tournament. So you have to know what word list you're using. In Words with Friends, there is a different dictionary that they use. So there's a whole bunch of words that they use that we don't use in the OSPD 6. Now, it's probably true the other way as well. We may have words that are not good in their dictionary. In fact, I know that's true because I've played a number of words that I've known to be good, and then it doesn't allow me to play the word because it's not in their dictionary.
Right.
So if you are going to play Scrabble and then play Words with Friends, be aware that there is a difference. And it's not that you should not do that, but it's much harder to play when there's 2 different word sources. So I do lose many games on Words with Friends, but I always lose them because I don't know their dictionary, and I really don't want to know their dictionary. I'm willing to lose as opposed to learning their dictionary and end up being confused at some point playing the Scrabble official dictionary version.
So you're making the choice that you want to be more of an expert playing the official Scrabble game rather than being an expert in playing Words with Friends. So Words with Friends
Right.
are just fun game to play.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I do find that my Scrabble words do allow me to win 80% of the time on Words with Friends, and I'm willing to stick to that. It depends how much total time you have invested.
Sure.
I have 30 plus years invested in learning this one dictionary. Now, another thing that has come along in the Scrabble world, as I mentioned, there are different parts of the world that use different word lists. England, South Africa, Australia, many other countries in Europe and in Africa, and I'm not so sure what they use in Asia, except I do know that Thailand uses the OWL the same as we do. Israel uses the OWL the same as we do. But South Africa, England, Australia, they use a dictionary that's called the Collins, Collins.
Okay.
That dictionary is also used in international world tournaments. Now, that dictionary, I told you that ours has 170,000 words in it.
Right.
Their dictionary has about 325,000 words.
Wow.
Our dictionary has 107 two-letter words. Their dictionary has about 130 two-letter words. So there's enough difference in the two that if you want to switch back playing from using one to the other, that's a massive undertaking.
Sure.
Now, there have been many players here in the US who feel that if they learn to play with the Collins Dictionary, they would be more suited to play anywhere in the world. So these people who think that way started playing, even though they live here in the States, they started playing using the Collins version. And many tournaments that have happened here in the States, when you go to enroll, you have a choice. Do you want to play in the OWL version or do you want to play in the Collins version? The number of people that study the Collins version is very small in the United States compared to the OWL.
Okay.
But you can find Collins competitions here in the United States. And so knowing that, that gives another option to the people out there who, let's say you live here, but you come from England or South Africa. And so you may be familiar with a lot of those other words, those other terms.
Sure.
So it might be a good fit for you. But you know it's available, and you can, just like you can get versions for your handheld and your computer that unscrambles the OSPD, you can get version that unscrambles the Collins as well.
Okay.
If you are a player in the US and you use the OWL as your primary source, you are at a major disadvantage if you play someone with Collins, because they have almost twice as many words. So even though we have a lot of things that look very weird on the board, like CRWTH, they'll have 200, 300 of things in their dictionary that look equally as weird. So there are choices we make. And then remember this, Scrabble is all about not just words, but memorization of words. And a lot of people forget that. It's about memory. And you have to remember what's good. You have to remember what is not acceptable so that you're prepared to challenge when they play one of those strange things.
Well, for memory, one of the things that you've talked about numerous times is, using some sort of flashcard system to study those words, because again, if it's memory, you're not necessarily thinking of a word and thinking of the definition and saying, oh, one of these days I can't wait to play, a certain word. But it's, when you use those flashcards and you look at the word and you repeat it and you do this a couple of, different times, eventually that word is going to stick in your head.
You're right. And that's why I often talk about the system called space repetition. Just because you learned a word today doesn't mean you're going to remember it tomorrow. And so in order for you to remember it, you have to do things with it. You have to write it down. You have to look at it. You have to review it tomorrow. You have to play it when you have it. Playing a word when you can find it on your rack and putting it down, that really boosts memory of it.
Absolutely.
But you might remember, for instance, like I can recall in the early 1990s where I made a word list for a friend of mine, and she wanted all the words in the dictionary that were the names of monetary units or coins.
Right, I remember you telling us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thinking back on that experience, there probably were 200 different words, penny, dime, nickel, quarter, but there were a bunch of names of coins from other countries, like Ekpwili, Ekpwele, and Ngwee, Ngwee. I amaze myself that I remember those. I can probably remember 20, but I told you there are maybe 200.
Right.
And so I don't remember 180, but something so weird as NGWEE, that made it a dent in my head. And so I remember it. Another NG word is Nagultrum, Ngultrum. I can't tell you why I remember those and why I don't remember the other, but our minds work in funny ways.
Right.
And you can probably think of things you remember and other things that you learned, but you just can't recall. Now, if I wanted to be complete with that, I would have to go dig up my word list, and if I buried it so deeply I can't find it anymore, I'd have to recreate that word list and spend some time studying it.
Sure.
There are all different things among the words that are going to catch your interest, your imagination. One of the things that I enjoy seeing and remembering, there are those words that have sets of letters that are repeated twice.
Okay.
Like the tsetse fly, TSI, TSI. BOU, bow, bow. That is a long flowing gown. Go-go, dada, mama, moo-moo, M-U-U, or M-U-M-U.
Interesting.
Okay, so that I find interesting. So I'll give you another one that I don't know the meaning of. ATL, ATL.
ATL, ATL.
Yep.
Hmm.
Lava, lava. LAVA, LAVA.
Interesting words, which
Yeah.
and you would probably question if somebody put it down unless you knew that it was real.
Now, if you got really turned on by this, you might spend part of a day or 2 days thumbing through the dictionary word by word and make a long list of all of those. Tom tom.
Well, that's a drum, isn't it?
I would think so.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, well, another thing, I'm looking through this list. Sometimes when you look through a list, this brings up the thought of hooks. Okay, I see the word hook on the board, and the letter, one letter it takes in front, we would all know shook, SHOOK.
Oh, okay.
But would you challenge CHOOK, chook?
Probably because it does. I don't think I've ever seen it written that way.
I'm pretty sure chook, CHOOK, is a chicken.
Okay.
Now I see the word house, HOUSE, and it too also takes a front C, chouse.
Chose. Huh.
When I think of hooks and I look at words like this, it's the reason I want to know this is the word hook and house will frequently be played on a board. And if I hooked my S onto hook, I'm not going to get a challenge if I play shook. But if I play a word and make chook, I'm probably going to get a challenge if it's any significant amount of time
Right.
of points. The word huffy, HUFFY, can be chuffy, CHUFFY.
I'm going to have to try those because I'm sure there's more opportunities to play words like that than we.
There are hundreds and maybe even thousands of opportunity like that. And it becomes a function what you know and where you decide to spend your time in terms of does that turn you on? Is that something that excites you? Is it something that once you see chouse, you start thinking in terms of what else could I do that with?
Right.
And the next thing you know, you might be finding a different front hook. Let me see what I've got here. This isn't quite as exciting, but let's say we had the word lock, L-O-C-K.
Okay.
That has a lot of front hooks. What front hooks can you think of for lock, L-O-C-K?
Well, you could put a C in front of it for clock.
Yeah,
You could put an F in front of it for flock.
yeah.
Um, Going through the alphabet.
See, what I do is I go right down the alphabet.
Yeah, yeah.
So block B for
Oh, block.
block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Glock.
And then I might think in terms of if I wasn't just going to do a hook, but I wanted to do a front extension, you could make schlock.
Huh. Yeah, I know a lot of schlocky things, so interesting.
So
You,
as, go ahead.
you've talked about this a lot in your blogs, that if it's something that you want to do, you can do all these things. You can learn these words. You can get better at playing the game, whether it's even just playing it for fun at home. Okay. um, but it just takes a little initiative on each of our parts to say, yes, this is what I want to do, and start doing it.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've said many times in the last month or two in my blogs, I don't want to turn people off to Scrabble because they think, well, I could never do that. If you really feel it would be an imposition on your time, well, don't do that. You don't have to do that. But what I'm providing is I'm providing a different way of looking at things. So just say, okay, that's sort of interesting, but that's not for me. And I'll just continue to play the way I've been playing. And that's perfectly fine. And yet, when I meet someone that says, I want to play better, show me your trick or two. These are some of the tricks. And there are so many different ways to look at words and to look at the game. I've been doing it for 30 years and I still find things that are new every time I do it.
Right.
And today I'm interested in looking at sets of letters that repeat themselves. So I find the word gree-gree, Grigri.
Gree-gree.
Gree-gree. It happens to be a bird.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And is that interesting? Will you remember it if you have Gri on the board?
Yeah.
The first time I had the opportunity, I had a different word on my board and I put it down. And then after I hit my clock and it was no longer my turn, I said, I could have played Grigri. and it's like sometimes that particular word, Grigri, might only be worth about 10 points.
Sure.
So why would you do that? But the fact that it's so unusual, would that draw a challenge from my opponent? And maybe if I play it, I can just kind of screw up the board for my opponent.
But sometimes when you screw up the board, it's not just for your opponent, and that's something.
Oh, absolutely.
That I've learned. In a game I was playing the other day, it was weird because I was playing very casually, and then all of a sudden I looked at it and I said, oh, if I put this one word here, I'm going to really mess it up. And I did, because my opponent skipped a turn and then traded tiles on the turn after that. But I realized I was only playing like one or two letters on the board because I had screwed it up, for the two of us. And, you want to be careful when you do that.
If you're ahead in the game and you're getting near the end, then you want to screw it up. If you're trailing, you don't want to screw it up because you want to leave opportunities for yourself, even though it leaves opportunities for your opponent. Here's another one with repeats of letters, and this is sort of tricky. It's 4 letters repeated. H-O-T-S. H-O-T-S.
Hots.
That's exactly what my opponent put down, and that's what I read. Hots.
Hot shots.
Hot shots, exactly.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And I actually challenged hots.
Yeah.
And my opponent started giggling. And it's hot shots.
Right.
And you have to kind of do a double take on that one. And there are many words that are like that. Oh, another one that I learned that this is not a repeat, but here it's 6 letters wrong.
Okay.
Long. I played R-E-E-C-H.
R-E-E-C-H.
I paused.
Okay.
And then I put an O at the end.
R-E-E-C-H-O. Recho.
Now, because I put them down that way, you said exactly what it sounded like. Recho.
Yeah.
Now look at it again.
R-E-E-C-H-O. I still see it the same way. Re-echo.
Re-echo.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So depending how sly and inviting you want to be, you can do that sort of thing legally and throw your opponent off.
Sure.
And so that's another thing that I've learned to do. Here's a very strange word that is new to the current version of the dictionary. G-R-R-R-L.
G-R-R-L.
3 R's.
Okay, G-R-R-R-L. It sounds like somebody is just making a noise, like girl.
Yeah, hey girl.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yes, it is. Wow.
Yeah. There are a number of words in this version, current version, that are like slang. The word what's-is, W-H-A-T-S-I-S. What's-is.
What's-is?
It's like ghetto slang. Okay. So there are all kinds of strange things in the dictionary. And you might sit there and say, okay, let's say I called out 24 of them in the session and you didn't know one. How could it be that you didn't know any of those things? Well, there's 170,000 things in the dictionary and you only know 5%.
Well, and the other thing is that sometimes I think we know it, but we don't necessarily see it. Okay. So when you were using the word before R-E-E-C-H, okay.
Yeah.
My brain turned it around and I saw cheer.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And I'm thinking, but again, I might not have been able to play it that way. Okay. But that's what I was seeing. And I'm thinking to myself, are we dyslexic? Are you reading it to me backwards or not? And then, when you said you added the O and, you prompted me, it was, re-echo. But we may know the word re-echo, but when even if we had a place to play it, that concept may not come to us. And so it's like, what do I do with these letters?
The other thing about the word re-echo, if you actually put it down on the board and look at it,
Yeah.
it looks weird because it's got the double E at the
Right.
near the beginning. All right, the last thing I'm going to share with you today is a word that I think is perfect for you.
Okay.
Do our listeners know that besides the name Karen, you go by the name Kiki?
Most of them do, yes.
Okay. Well, this is close to Kiki. The
Okay.
word is Kikuyu. Kikuyu.
Kikuyu. So I'm going to believe it's probably a Polynesian word.
Well, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
We have to go to our dictionary to look it up. But because when I looked at it, I thought Kiki. It's probably a word that you'll never play because it has 2 K's and 2 U's.
Yep.
And so you definitely have to have a blank to play that. But I think it would leave your opponent's jaw dropped onto the board.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, by looking at the words of the day, by putting together word lists or purchasing the word list, from you, those are ways that we can, even if it's not about becoming a better Scrabble player, it sure is a way of getting our minds to start thinking and looking at things differently. And that's one of the things that I find interesting about the word of the day is that I see the combination of letters. And that's what draws me more than what the word is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at that and I go, wow, if I ever had that combination of letters, but I've got to look at the word, I have to say the word. And like you said, I have to repeat this a number of times. Otherwise, it's not going to stick in my brain.
And that's all of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, another fun session on, you know, just for the spell of it. And hopefully we're getting closer to being able to have these Scrabble clubs back up and running. I know I just heard today, I don't know if you've heard it out on the West Coast yet, but they're starting to close parts of New York down again. And I know that there are other states around that are having some problems. So I'm just hoping that everybody takes this seriously and wears their mask and does what they have to so we can all get back together and have some fun and use all these tips and tricks.
Okay.
All right. Well, you have a great day and we'll talk to you again next week, okay?
Take care. Stay safe.
You too. Bye-bye now.
Bye.